guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome to a slightly different video. So I get asked quite a lot, either through messages on social media or people coming up to me at events. I get asked about what kit I use to make my videos. Now, I need to start this film by saying I am by no means an expert videographer or filmmaker, but I have learned an awful lot in the 2 years since I first started Petrol Ped, and I thought it might be quite interesting to share that with you. So, this film's all about which kit I use and why. So let's get cracking. As you can see, I am joined by the petrol pooch herself, who's going to help during the making of this film. Not. So, the very first thing I did, I used to watch all the guys that we all love and watch on YouTube and think, I reckon I could do that myself. And at the time, this was probably the only camera I had, an old Gopro Motorsport Hero I bought when I had my caterer, and that was the only camera I had. So I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and buy, not spend too much money, and I bought this. So this, I'm going to kind of do this a little bit. So this is a simple Sony Handycam, basically, nothing spectacular. It was a couple of £100, and I bought that. And that was the kind of selfie style camera that I started off my channel. And I used it for a lot of things outside of the car. My problem I had with the GoPro, it's quite an old one. It didn't have the ability to be mounted outside of this case, so the audio quality was really poor. So I had a look to see what other people were using, and I guess you've got the choice of going down the GoPro route, but I used to watch quite a lot of Tim Shmee 150 videos, and I noticed that he used these things. So this is a Sony Action Cam. I will hold it up to the camera so you can have a look. Now these are a little bit cheaper, I guess, than the GoPros. They're about £200 or so. And what I really liked about these two things is, one, they have really good quality mics. So the audio quality in car is really good, and I don't actually use an external or a lapel mic with these in car unless I'm in something very windy like a Caterham 620R, and they also come with these wireless remotes, so you can basically frame the shot with these, push the start-stop button there, and they're really handy. I've got a couple. They kind of come with a little sort of wrist strap if you want them as well. So I bought one of these, and that kind of helped me a great deal, certainly with the in-car kind of stuff. I'm also going to tell you some of the mistakes that I've made as well as we go through, which are quite interesting too. So that's how I started my YouTube channel. A simple, quite cheap, couple of £100 worth of Sony Handycam and a single Sony Action Cam. And in the early days, we need to talk editing as well. I edited using Windows Movie Maker. I just had an old PC in the house. Windows Movie Maker was free, and that's how I started. Now, we'll talk about editing software as we go through the film. You will very rapidly outgrow editing software. I don't use Windows Movie Maker anymore, but we'll come on to that very shortly. So I did that for a while. I then decided that I wanted to be able to shoot more angles and so on. And I guess the other thing you need to think about is, with these action cams, is how you're going to mount them in the car. So again, guess what? I had a look at what Shmee was doing, and I went down the route of using these Joby mounts. They're really easy. You just kind of twist this grip on here. Really easy to mount to glass. They can mount to the outside of the car. They are very adjustable. I think they're about £25 each, something like that. And they're pretty good. They do vibrate a tiny bit. So what I've actually started to do recently, I still use this, but I also bought this mount, which is a little bit more, it's got ratchets on it, so it's a tiny little bit more stable in car. So I'll use this for my main video camera that's looking at me and doing my shots, and then also I'm a little bit more confident that this isn't going to fall off if I stick it outside the car. I'll try and put links to all this kit downstairs. So as you can see, I've actually got quite a few camera mounts. So I decided to go and buy an extra camera, and unfortunately I went down the route of buying another Action Cam, fell into the trap of going for one that looked cheap. They come in these cases, which are very good because they're fully waterproof, and I bought one of these. So again, it's a Sony Action Cam, but it's a cheaper one. It was about £100. But the problem with this is it doesn't have the ability to be mounted as it is there. The only way you can mount this is by having it inside one of these waterproof cases, which quite badly affects the audio. But as it's only 100 quid, I don't mind so much putting that on the outside of cars if I think there's a risk of it falling off, because it's, you know, it's less valuable than the other ones. But I don't use that so much anymore. And likewise with my old GoPro, I don't use that so much anymore either. Gets expensive, this YouTube lot. I went out and bought another one of these, so I've got two of these. So if you watch my films, I'll often have this one facing at me and this one as a kind of POV camera going over the steering wheel, so you can kind of get them, and I'll kind of edit between the two of these. So they're my kind of mainstay in-car cameras, and I love them. I think they're very, very good quality. I shoot in 1080p at 60 frames a second with these. There's a range of different settings, but those settings for me work really, really well. So that's the kind of in-car stuff. Now, what I found with this Sony Handycam is I very rapidly outgrew it from an audio point of view. Again, you'll be able to see if I just hold this up, I've got a little sort of wind muffler dead cat on the two mics there, but because the mics there's no way of adding an external microphone to this, the audio quality I just thought could be better. So about a year ago, I guess, I decided I was going to upgrade my main camera. And I did a bit of reading and a bit of research, and I thought, right, I'm going to go down the digital SLR route. And I went out and bought this. So I guess I kind of did the kind of Casey Neistat setup. So this is a Canon 750D digital SLR with a Joby Gorilla Pod, so you can kind of do the selfie and so on. It's got a hot shoe on the top, so you can mount a mic on the top as well as a flash if you're using it for stills. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. This camera was, I think, about £500. I bought it and then very, very rapidly realised I'd made a mistake. Although the still images from this camera are very, very good, and I'll put some up as I'm talking. I love overlaying still images into my films. From a video point of view, this camera has two main issues. Issue number one is when you're at the higher resolution at 1080p, it will only do 25 frames a second, so for moving stuff, it's just not quite good enough. And unfortunately, when I bought it, to go to 50 frames or 60 frames a second, it was going to be about another £400, and I just couldn't justify the extra money. The second problem this camera has, which for me is the one that gripes me the most, is it has an autofocus, but it has problems hunting with the focus sometimes. You'll see it kind of going in and out of focus. And you'll see on some of my films when I was using this, you'd kind of sometimes start a film and I'd be out of focus, and that started to become a real problem for me. So probably about 4 or 5 months ago, I decided that this camera wasn't good enough and doing a good enough job for me. So I decided I would change and go to the camera that you are watching me through. I am going to try and do double filming. It's either going to work or it's not. So if I just turn this on like this. So I am now using a Panasonic. You can actually see it starting to have problems hunting. I knew this would happen. A Panasonic camcorder. Now the reason that I decided to use this camcorder is for two reasons. One, as you can see, I can get a hot shoe mic on the top, but also it can shoot in 4K. Now interestingly, I don't actually shoot in 4K, I shoot still in 1080p. And that's also sat on a tripod that you can see there as well. Back to this camera. Don't know how well that'll work in the edit, we'll find out in a minute. So this camcorder, the form factor is much lighter, it's much easier to do selfie shots. I can shoot at 1080p at 60 frames a second. I can put a shotgun mic on the top. I use a Rode mic with a dead cat on there, and I'm really pleased with it. Again, it was in the region of about £500 to buy, but I'm really pleased with it. It's made a big difference to my film. So that's my main camera now. But I still use this DSLR for still shots because I just like taking still shots in the first place, but you can get some nice, quite detailed shots and so on. So they're my main video cameras, but I do use one more video camera for videos, and that is the video camera that is on my iPhone 7. This is, you can take 4K video off of this or 1080p at 60 frames a second. I've always got it with me, so I use this quite a lot. And actually, the shots that I'm showing you where I'm panning over the stuff here is shot using this. But sometimes I want to steady this up a little bit. So what I did go and invest in is one of these DJI Osmo Mobile. So basically, this is a gimbal, and I can just put the iPhone into the gimbal, and then that gives me a nice steady base. So some of the shots I do when I go around cars, the smoother things I've got it, basically it's just shot with a gimbal and my iPhone 7. I don't use any of the audio from the iPhone because I generally find it's not good enough, unless I'm out and about and I'm just literally vlogging with it, which I do sometimes. But often I'll just use video as kind of B-reel shots with music over them and so on. So this is a brilliant piece of kit, one of my better investments, I think. We're kind of getting to the end of all the stuff I've got. I guess the last thing I do need to mention and talk about is, for the more dramatic aerial stuff, is this. So I do have a drone. You may well have seen my video I did on the drone. Basically, I've got a Mavic Pro, brilliant bit of kit. Obviously, if you watch my channel, you'll know that I had this less than 4 weeks and flew it into a tree at 40 miles an hour. And I basically had to have a complete camera and gimbal assembly replaced. But this is a superb piece of kit, very, very easy to fly. If you don't know, and I'll put the link up to my drone video, but you've got the controller here, and you basically put your iPhone, or you can use an iPad mini under there as well, and control it from there. It's very, very simple to fly. Interestingly, there's quite a lot of debate going on around drones and the use of drones at the moment, and whether or not you should have a license. If you are going to make YouTube content and you're going to monetize that content, which I clearly do, then legally you need to have a license. So I'm not using that as much as I potentially could do at the moment, for two reasons. Very often I'm on my own when I'm with cars, so it makes it quite difficult to get footage. But secondly, I need to do my drone license, which I plan to do early in the new year, and then I can kind of feel free to monetize content that has drone footage in it. I've got a nice low pro bag, because you need to be able to take all your camera gear with you, and there's loads of different types of bags. I like this one. I can pretty much get everything I need in there, which is quite useful. Oh, sorry dude, keeping you awake? We're disturbing you? Yeah. And then, sorry, what? What? Do you want to be on the film? Give me a high five. Can you give me a high five? No? Okay. And then the last thing we need to talk about is editing. So as I said, I started off editing using Windows Movie Maker. I then went out, you're getting demanding, aren't you? Yeah. Went out and bought myself a MacBook Pro, and I now use iMovie. Now, interestingly, I'm at the kind of cusp of changing my editing software. Although I find iMovie is very, very easy to use, I can edit pretty quickly. So a typical 15-minute review for me, it depends how long I get with the car, but let's say I might get 3 hours with the car. For a 15-minute film, it probably takes me 3 or 4 hours worth of editing using iMovie. But I do know I need to take a step up and go up to another level. So at the moment, I'm not going to do that until the new year, and I'm not sure whether to do the Final Cut Pro, so go down the if you like, the improvement on iMovie, or go down the Adobe Creative Cloud route. I think probably Adobe will be the way I go, but that's a significant investment because there's a kind of monthly cost to having that. So that's pretty much all of my kit. Now, first thing I need to say here as well is if you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel, do not think you need to go out and spend the kind of money that you got here, because if I've invested significantly in my equipment. You don't need all of that. I know people who shoot YouTube videos on an iPhone, edit it on an iPhone and upload it using the Creator Studio app from YouTube off of the iPhone. You kind of don't need all of this. But what I do a lot is I watch a lot of other YouTube videos and I kind of try and work out how those shots were done and work out what equipment I would need to do those. And I always want to try and improve the quality of my content, and very often that means investing in new equipment. I think equipment wise I'm pretty much there. The one thing actually I forgot to add, I did also buy a GoPro Hero Session, one of these little cube things, specifically for external car shots. However, I've still got a problem with that because when I try and use it, it doesn't recognize the SD card, and I've tried formatting several different times or types of format and I still can't get it to work. So any ideas how I can get that to work, then fill your boots. I've had it about, well, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks and I've still not managed to get it to work yet. I just need to sit down and spend some time on it. But the idea behind that is just to get some better quality external shots, because and also potentially when I'm doing track days and so on, is to be able to have that connected to my helmet so I can do some POV shots. So hopefully you'll see something or some videos with using that in the new year. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. As I said, I'll kind of try and put some links below to the various bits of kit. I'd love to hear your questions. If you've got any questions about any of the things I've done, or if you enjoyed this style of video, if there's anything else you'd like to know about, what it's like to basically try and become a YouTuber and the things that you need. It's certainly a good fun process, but it is a lot of hard work. But anyway, if you've enjoyed that, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol for plenty more content to come. But from me and the Petrol Pooch who's fallen back to sleep again, I'll see you on the next video, guys. You take care, drive safe.